Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Very good afternoon. Very good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you. So, doubt on exemptions. Okay, I think we can start with exemption doubt. If it is not lengthy, we can take up doubts on the previous chapter and then continue with this. Yeah, we can start, Hardik. You can ask your question.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, I have one doubt in exemption. Sir, if, for example, if say Hajj committee sends some of the people to Pakistan to attend their Hajj function, any function if they want to attend in Pakistan, usually they send it by ship. Then, sir, for tourism purpose, will it be taxable or because of Hajj committee it is not taxable?
I'll just tell you the relevant portion because exemption is for the Hajj committee, only for the Hajj pilgrimage which is taken place and not for anything else.
Sir, but Hajj committee is only sending.
Okay.
Then, sir, will it be
We'll-
taxable?
So their exemption notification says that services provided by the Hajj committee and KMBA.
Yes, sir.
So if it is since the exemption themselves have not specific on what kind of trips should it be only to Hajj or anything, they've said any religious yatras or pilgrimage organized, okay,
Yes,
services of religious pilgrimage provided by specific organization.
yes, sir.
So everything will be exempt, but for them to do anything without sending to Hajj, it is not easy. They will have to take approvals. So it is not a easy part.
Okay, sir. And, sir, if a private ferry is going from Port Blair to Kolkata,
Port Blair to Kolkata. Okay.
sir, then will it be taxable?
Ferries. So if it is as a public transport, then only it will be exempted.
Like, sir, ferry for other than predetermined tourism, then it is
Correct.
exempt.
Yes, then it will be exempted.
Okay, sir. And, sir, if a courier agency is providing any kind of envelope, like document delivery, which is weighs less than 10 grams, then will it
Hmm.
be exempted?
No, it will be taxable. Courier services, everything is taxable. Only postal services below 10 grams is exempted.
Sir, then how to differentiate between postal department and courier agency, like in the sense of government and private?
Yeah, see, postal, you will have this India Post, you will have that acknowledgement,
Okay,
and
sir.
you will have that the service itself is provided by India Post.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. And, sir, toll charges, are they taxable?
Which charges?
Toll charges, sir, highway, one state to another state, if we go by road, then we pay toll.
No, toll is exempted.
Toll is exempted.
Yes.
And, sir, can you please explain lease part?
Which lease?
Uh, Lease which is provided for more than 30 years by the government. I was not able to understand it.
Okay.
One small topic that answer if answer one last doubt. Answer uh, if any institute provides its children or sorry students and hostel services, students staying and
Hmm.
hostel services, they are usually unregistered. So that then will they charge any kind of GST from them?
No. So the primary objective is that they're coming for studies. They're not only coming there for stay. The primary objective is education. So,
Yes, sir.
and the stay, hostel, food, all those facilities are ancillary. The objective is that they should clear their uh, studies at that level and go to the next level.
Okay,
So the
sir.
primary objective is education. So it becomes a composite supply. And since this main supply is
Yes, sir.
exempted, all others also will become exempted.
Sir, but in entry number 12, there is a new amendment in explanation 2, and they are saying that nothing contained in this entry shall apply to the accommodation services for a student in residences, accommodation services provided by the hostel camps, paying guest accommodation, and any other like that facility.
Correct. So if only hostel facilities are there, like you have paying guest facilities. So
Yes, sir.
that amendment is basically for that, saying that if there is any paying guest accommodation,
Yes,
then
sir.
they used to treat that also as residential accommodation and exempt it, or at
Okay,
least
sir.
claim for exemption. So to avoid that, they have specifically excluded this.
So they will be taxable, but if it is a student that is availing it, then it is exempted.
Student availing, see, now there are two things. One is a school has hostel along with it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there it is a composite supply. But
Yes,
now
sir.
if a student is studying in a school and he is going to a hostel elsewhere, which
Yes,
is
sir.
like a, instead of buying a house, he's staying in a hostel,
Okay, sir.
right?
Yeah,
So then
I
there are two different supplies there. In the
uh,
first instance, it was a composite supply.
okay, sir. If I'm in another state, say Mumbai, and
Correct.
there I get an hostel for staying, and
Correct.
then it will be taxable for me.
Can't say completely taxable because as of now, you tell exempted itself because post your exam timelines or the timelines, they have clarified that that is also exempted up to 20,000 rupees per month.
Up to 20,000. Okay, sir.
So for your purposes, you treat that is also exempted.
If there is a continuous stay of 90 days, that new
Correct.
exemption. Okay,
Correct.
sir. Okay, sir. Got it, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And on the aspect of leasing services, entry number 41 says that any upfront amount, which is called as premium salami, or in few places they call it as premium amount, few places they call it as salami, and few places they call it as development charges. All of that which is payable in respect of service by way of granting of long-term lease for 30 years or more of industrial plots or plots for development of. So this is not normal regular plots, right? This is industrial plots wherein you give a lease for more than 30 years. Then that is exempted because once it is a long-term lease, the government would not want to tax it because more or less the other person is buying it like a immobile property. But because the government cannot sell the land, that's the reason they give this long-term lease. So on such long-term lease also, GST is exempted. But there's a specific clause that it should be for industrial plots or plots for development of infrastructure for financial business and other things. Yeah, for short-term lease is liable, yes. So when they have said 30 years, that's the time limit they have specified. And if it is less than 30 years, it's a short-term lease, Vinita. Yes, that will be taxable. Sai Kumar, whatever are the updates relevant for you, you will get a updates booklet kind of a thing, which the institute will release. So generally what they do is any updates which is 6 months prior to exams, all of that will get covered. So up till November, since your exams will be in for your May exams, which will effectively be in June right now. So whatever updates are there 6 months prior to that, that will be taxable. That will be applicable. Which percentage tax is liable for land or immobile property? What percentage tax? Okay. For services, see, renting of immobile property is a service, right? And leasing also is part of the renting of immobile property. So if it's a short-term lease, then the service what you're providing is renting of immobile property, and that will be taxed at 18%. Correct, Sai Kumar. Yes, everybody will be having now June 2024 print, and you will get a update called a statutory update. Just update that, that should be sufficient. Okay. So are we good to go with today's topic? So what we'll be discussing today is on time of supply. Okay. So what is time of supply? We know that under the various canons, various legs which is required for taxation, what is the leviability, who is to pay the tax, how he has to pay the tax, what rate, and when should he pay the tax. So one of the limbs is that when he should pay the tax. That is what is meant by time of supply, which means that just saying that okay, your taxable is not sufficient. When should I pay the tax is also required. So that is what time of supply will decide and determine. So what we'll cover under this, we will cover time of supply for goods and time of supply for services. Both are different. The reason being that the characteristics for goods is separate and the characteristics for a service is separate. Unlike goods, where in case of a goods, we can identify the movement, we can touch and see the product. So there we are able to identify, but in case of a services, we are not able to identify the movement. We are not able to see when, like in the point of supply example, which I had given, in case of a service which is rendered during travel, what is the time of supply you will decide on that? Because service is provided the time onboarded the train till the time I have landed. So when is the time of supply for services? So it becomes very difficult to have common grounds. That's why the time of supply for goods is set in a different paraphrase and time of supply for services is set with different parameters. So with these distinction, we will understand what is the time of supply for goods and what is the time of supply for services. And it includes within this, we will see for goods, what is the time of supply under normal forward charge, what is the time of supply for reverse charge, what are the vouchers which are exchangeable for goods or services, and in residual cases, what will happen. So this is what we will cover today. Now, in terms of goods, I said it is simple, but you understand that how the process works in a typical industry or a typical manufacturing sector. The supply flows just that, like how you go and buy a product, you cannot make a purchase in a commercial trade. You need to have proper timelines, you need to have proper budgets, and you need to decide when the goods has to get delivered because you need the goods, right? The goods will become raw material, so you will need the goods on a timely basis. So what you will do, you want to buy some goods, you will raise a purchase order. Once you raise a purchase order, first to raise a purchase order also, you will check who are the vendors who are offering you the best price. So once you get quotation, if it is a new vendor, then you will get quotations from him and you will verify the other quotations and check if it is viable. Then you will raise a purchase order. Once you give a purchase order, then the seller is ready to prepare for those goods. Sometimes the goods may take some time, so he will have to procure the raw materials, do the manufacturing, and then sell it to you. If it is seasonal goods, on a non-seasonal basis, you will not get. So he has to plan based on your purchase order how much of the goods he will have to pack and keep it ready for manufacture. So once purchase comes, he will prepare that and then he will intimate you saying that these goods are ready and he will dispatch it. Once he dispatches it, you may be at a different distance than at a different location than where the seller is. So the transit time will also be there. So during the transit, the goods are in transit, neither of the seller can or the purchaser can use it. And then once the goods are delivered, then it is treated as a receipt And then you will record it in your books of accounts. You will send it to your finance team. They will account it as purchases, and then they will make the payment. Once they make a payment, there also there could be duality that they have entered that okay, check is issued today. If you go as per check is issued today, but it'll get cleared after 3 days because you will issue the check, customer will take it, deposit it next day, then the bank will have to clear it on the third or fourth day. So all of this means that the process of procurement of goods also is not very simple. It involves multiple pointers. So time of supply helps us to decide that at what point of time will GST become payable. Can I say that GST just becomes payable at the time purchase order is raised? Is it possible? Correct? No. So just purchase order is not sufficient. Purchase order is just a confirmation from the customer saying that, okay, he wants to buy the goods from me and I have to plan, manufacture. If it is traded goods, I can dispatch it immediately, but provided I have the sufficient stock. If it is a manufacturing unit, then I'll have to do the manufacture and then sell it. So it is when is the tax payable is to be decided because you have various pointers. So let's understand this. Does it become payable when the agreement to supply is made? That when the customer is given a purchase order, has given some agreement that point of time? Or is it when the goods are shipped or services are provided? Or is it when the invoice is issued? Or is it when the payment is made? So there are multiple points involved in a transaction of supply of goods. So if I have to put it in a picture, I've put various pointers in a transaction. This is a complete transaction. In this transaction, I have to now find out what is the time of supply. Okay. So when this transaction is over, after the transaction is over, I should not get confused. Before the transaction triggers, I have to know so that I have to pay the taxes to the government. So if one pointer is an agreement to supply goods, if there is another pointer on shipping of goods, third pointer on issue of invoice, and fourth pointer on payment, then the section on time of supply, the law will tell us that out of these four pointers, what you have, I will tell you that time of supply is say on this date. Okay, we'll see the rules which says that okay, this is the time of supply. Say that time of supply falls on 11th of April. Okay, the time of supply is falling on 11th of April. So will you pay taxes on the 11th of April itself? You will not pay on the 11th itself. Why time of supply ka? What is the meaning then? Time of supply says that based on your various date, say this was on 1st April, another pointer was on 5th April, and another point was on 20th April. The government said, okay, 11th April is the time of supply. So when the government has told that 11th April is the time of supply, then when will you pay the taxes if not on 11th? In which financial year the transaction occurs, in that it will be taxable. That's right. So in this case, the transaction time of supply is, say you have learned this chapter, just we are going for one step ahead and saying that, okay, we have understood the time of supply and the time of supply is on the 11th of April. So few Pallavija is saying, yes, on 11th April itself, we'll pay the tax. Time of supply, Ritika is saying that is when one pays the tax. So you mean to say that I can decide when I will pay the tax? Ritika is saying yes, 11th itself, when invoice is made, when we raise invoice. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is when invoice is raised. Okay. So when the government says when invoice is raised, you have to pay the taxes. Say on the 11th of April, I have raised the invoice. So should I pay the taxes on 11th April itself? Is it that, okay, today I made a sale, the point of supply is today, so I have to pay the taxes today itself? No. Then when Kasak is still sticking on that, yes, you have to pay the taxes on 11th April itself. No. So various pointers are there, right? Like in this case, we have seen that various points are there when it could be agreement is made, goods are shipped, invoice is issued, payment is made. All of this transaction will happen in a supply chain, right? In a supply chain, it's life chain of any supply. These four will minimum be there. So when the government said, okay, I have picked up, say, invoice, somebody was saying invoice is the date. Okay, invoice is issued on 11th April. So when will I pay the taxes for a time of supply which is decided to be 11th April? Correct. Narayan Patil has given correct answer. He said that yes, sir, 11th April is the time of supply, but the payment of tax for the transaction of 11th April will be the due date for the April month, which is the 20th of the subsequent month. So whatever supplies I have made on 11th April, I will not pay the taxes immediately. I will collect from the customer. My question was not on collection. My question was on payment of tax. That if a transaction has occurred and the time of supply has triggered as 11th April, then when will you make the payment to the government? So we will make the payment to the government on the accumulate all the transactions for the month and pay it by 20th. So when we say time of supply, it is one part in the overall return filing scenario, overall tax payment scenario, wherein if a time of supply is decided, then accumulate all of that and pay the taxes on such transactions by the 20th of the subsequent month. Who has decided this 20th April? There is something called as a returns. In the returns, you will see that there is a time given. And the time says that by 20th of the subsequent month, you have to pay the taxes belonging to the previous month. तम्बेश्वरी क्या बोल रहा हूं मैं? आई एम जस्ट ट्राइंग टू रेप्लिकेट व्हाट आई स्पोकन इन इंग्लिश इन हिंदी. क्या बोल रहा हूं मैं? सिंपल ये बता रहा हूं कि जब चार ट्रांजैक्शंस एक सेल के ट्रांजैक्शन में हो गए हैं, तो इसमें चार चीजें हो सकती है. एक परचेज ऑर्डर कोई और डेट हो सकता है, एडवांस मेरे को यहाँ पे मिल गया होगा, सेल मैंने यहाँ पे किया होगा, डिस्पैच मैंने यहाँ पे किया होगा और इनवॉइस यहाँ पे किया होगा. गवर्नमेंट ने बोल दिया कि सप्लाई ऑफ गुड्स, हमको पता है ना, इन केस ऑफ पॉइंट ऑफ सप्लाई, राइट, व्हाट इज द प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई, हमने हमने देखा है. करेक्ट. जो गुड्स के केस में क्या हो जाएगा, टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई विल बी व्हेन द इनवॉइस इज रेज्ड. अगर मैंने 11th अप्रैल को इनवॉइस रेज किया है, तो मैं टैक्सेस गवर्नमेंट को कब भरूंगा, ये पूछ रहा था. तो मेरा जवाब है कि अगर आपका टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई 11th अप्रैल डिसाइड कर दिया है गवर्नमेंट ने, तब उसका पेमेंट आपको भाग के उसी टाइम करने की जरूरत नहीं है. आपको उस पूरे मंथ के ट्रांजैक्शंस को ऐसे इकट्ठा करके यू हैव टू ऐड ऑल ऑफ देम, और उसका टैक्सेस आपको ड्यू डेट ऑफ अप्रैल के रिटर्न्स जो है 20th मई को जीएसटी 3B फाइल होगा, उसके साथ आपको पे करना है, नॉट ऑन द 11th अप्रैल. You're right, Sai Kumar. For making payment, they should be included in the 20 GSTR1, which we are filing on the 11th May. That is fine. So we are there, we will not pay any taxes, but taxes paid will be on the 20th itself. Correct. So Mahalakshmi is saying that, sir, if invoice is raised on 30th November, we should pay tax on the 20th of December. You're right. So Preeti Kumar is saying, so if goods are purchased in the current month, then GST amount needs to be paid in the next month of 20th. So 20th of the next month is the due date for GST payment. Correct. Not for the purchases, but Preeti, because whatever purchases you do, you will pay to the vendor based on what is your payment terms. But when you make any sale, that is the transaction what I'm talking. When you make any sale, there is an outward supply. When you make a sale, when you provide services, on that, all the sales will be included and a report will be prepared. One is called as GSTR1 and another one is called as GSTR3B. In the GSTR3B, when you file it, before filing, you will have to pay the taxes. If a person buys 20th April 2004, he has to pay GST? No. Or we are not talking about purchase, Riddhi. We are talking about sale. So when you sell something, say in your example, if you would have told if a person sells on the 20th of April, then he has to pay GST on the 20th of May. In case of reverse charge, the time of supply of reverse charge also is there. We will discuss there. So then at least normal case में श्रुति सबको समझ में आ जाएगा तो फिर reverse charge भी समझ में आ जाएगा. Selling is considerable. Yes, RCM and FCM has different time of supply. So GSTR1 can be filed at before 20th, but GSTR3 we need to file within due date. Naima, GSTR1 also has a due date. GSTR1 has to be filed by the 11th of the subsequent month. And if it is quarterly person who is opted for quarterly payment, quarterly filing of the returns, because it is QRMP scheme, quarterly return monthly payment. If they are opting for that QRMP scheme, then they will do the returns on the quarterly basis and payment they'll do on a monthly basis. Okay. Date assuming are fixed by the government. Date is fixed by the government. We cannot decide the dates. The government has said that in various transactions, if this transaction is happened on some day, then you have to pay the returns on the 20th of the subsequent month. Okay, with this basic understanding, we will get into the technical things. What is the definition of goods and what is the definition of services, firstly? Okay, so that we'll know what is goods, what is services. We have read this before, just we'll brush this up. What is goods? Goods means any kind of any kind of movable property, and it excludes money and securities. जो money और security है, वो goods के definition नहीं आएगा. The goods is all kind of movable property, and it includes actionable claim, growing crops, grass and things forming part of the land, which is agreed to be severed. Severed matlab cut karna, which is agreed to be severed before supply or under a contract of supply. So goods means basically every kind of movable property. So immovable hai, wo goods nahi hai. So what is movable is only goods, and it excludes money and securities, but it includes actionable claims. Actionable claims को GST में कहा गया है कि it is a goods. ठीक है? Actionable claims and growing crops, grass and things which is forming part of the land, it is agreed to be severed. कि आपने agree कर लिया कि आप cut करोगे, then it is a goods. Okay? So that is the definition of goods. And definition of services. Services means anything other than goods. वेरी सिंपल, क्योंकि गुड्स के डेफिनेशन में जो जो गुड्स है उसको कह दिया गया है, तो बैलेंस जो बचता है उसको सर्विस कह देंगे. लेकिन उसमें भी थोड़े एक्सक्लूजन है, जैसे गुड्स में हमने ट्रांजैक्शन मनी और सिक्योरिटीज को कहा कि वो गुड्स नहीं है, वैसे ही सर्विसेज में भी गुड्स, सर्विस का मेन डेफिनेशन है सर्विस इज एनीथिंग अदर देन गुड्स, एंड इट आल्सो एक्सक्लूड्स मनी एंड सिक्योरिटीज। ठीक है, सर्विसेज मींस एनीथिंग other than goods, money, and security, but includes activities relating to use of money or its conversion for a consideration. So it includes activities relating to use of money or its conversion for a or its conversion for a consideration. So अगर आप करेंसी कन्वर्ट करते हो तो करेंसी इज मनी, मनी इज एक्सक्लूडेड, बट वो करेंसी कन्वर्ट करने के लिए जो चार्जेस लेता है दैट इज टैक्सेबल। Then second part, activities activities facilitating or arrangement transaction securities. तो सिक्योरिटीज के ट्रांजैक्शंस जो बाई और सेल करते हैं उसके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा, लेकिन उसके ऊपर जो ब्रोकरेज है ऑन दैट जीएसटी विल बी लेविएबल, दैट्स अ डिफरेंट थिंग। बट prima facie here what they're saying is activities relating to use of money or its conversion is also included, and activities facilitating or arranging transactions in securities is also included। मतलब बाइंग एंड सेलिंग तो एक्सक्लूड हो जाएगा, एक्टिविटीज रिलेटिंग मतलब ब्रोकरेज चार्जेस है ऑन दैट जीएसटी विल बी अवेलेबल। Agriculture income, growing crops before supply, is it coming under agriculture goods or no? No, sir. It is not coming under agricultural goods. Any goods, like anything which you have a structure on the land, then activities relating to such use of money is liable. Money per se is not liable. Same securities is not under GST, but any transaction involving on such securities is taxable. So brokerage charges is all taxable. Okay. So that is goods and services definition. Then who is a recipient? Who is the recipient? We know this. When the consideration is payable, the person who pays the consideration is the recipient. And if no consideration is payable for some transaction, then the person to whom the goods are delivered or made available, or to whom possession or use of the goods is given, will become the recipient. So general cases में क्या होगा? You will make payment for the goods. So you are making the payment, you are the recipient. Clear? So anybody, even in a business transaction, so company is treated as a recipient. And if no consideration is payable, then the person to whom the goods are delivered, he himself will become the recipient. जैसे कोई जाता है और if the consideration, if no consideration is payable, so person to whom the goods are delivered are made available. Okay, if there is no consideration, but you are giving it as a disposal for a NGO. In that case, person to whom goods are delivered. So to whom you will give this goods. Okay, wherein there is no consideration, but you are giving it to somebody. Then the person who is receiving it, he himself will become the recipient. And if no consideration is payable, then person to whom the services is rendered, where no consideration is payable for supply of goods or services, then the person, in case of goods, to whom you hand over the goods, and in case of services, to whom you provide the services, will be the right person to be treated as recipient. And recipient can also include an agent who is acting on behalf of the principal. That is clear. Similar definition is there in the supplier. Supplier in relation to goods or services shall mean the person who is supplying the said goods or services. Okay. Supplier in relation to any goods or services shall mean the person who is supplying the goods or services, and shall include an agent, both. In case of supplier, agent is included. Even in case of recipient, agent will be included because most of the works will be done by the agent. Principal will only just do the communication. So supplier in relation to any goods or services shall mean the person who is supplying the said goods or services or both, and shall include an agent acting as such on behalf of the supplier. So he will also be treated as a supplier. So if a company is purchasing the product and the same goods are sold to another person, then who is the recipient? So in the first scenario, when you are purchasing, you are the recipient. And in second scenario, when you are selling this goods to another customer, then the customer is the recipient. So there are two different transactions. Don't have to get confused saying that, sir, in one case, I'm a buyer also, I'm a receiver also, and I'm a service provider also. So in the first transaction, if you're a recipient, then you are a recipient because you are the one who will make payment to the for the raw materials. So you are the recipient in that case. In the second case, when you are doing any activity on this or doing a trading activity, supplying the same goods to the other person, then there are two different transactions, right? Okay, now let's get into the actual time of supply. Any doubts till now? Perfect. Section 12 says the liability to pay tax on goods shall arise at the time of supply. So what can be the various time of supply that we will have to see? But the primary liability to pay the tax on goods shall arise at the time of supply. I'll give you consider in case of a no consideration, third case of recipient. So in case of a recipient, there are three situations we are emphasizing, right? If consideration is payable for supply of goods or services. Second scenario is no consideration is payable for supply of goods or services. That is when you are donating something, you are disposing of your assets and you're giving it to an NGO and you're not receiving anything. And you don't expect also to get anything because it's a disposal of goods via a donation. So when it is disposal, then the recipient, okay, then the recipient will also not pay any GST because for him it is a community service. Okay. So when there is no consideration, then the recipient will be the person who is taking the goods on delivery. And in case of any services which you're providing, say you're providing a opinion and you're not charging anything. So in that case, who is the recipient? The person to whom you provide the service. So if I am providing some service to you, there is no consideration which we have agreed between us. Then who is the recipient? The receiver of the service. That is the person to whom I render the service is the recipient. Okay. Now let us get into the time of supply of goods, wherein we said that 12.1, the liability to pay tax on goods shall arise at the time of supply. Now, the time of supply is what? That is given in 12 subsection 2, which says that the time of supply for goods shall be earliest of the following. One is the date of issue of invoice, if the invoice is issued, or if invoice is not issued, then the last day on which the invoice is to be issued under section 31. Okay. So time of supply will be the date of earliest of the following, the date of issue of the invoice or when I'm supposed to raise the invoice, or date of receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Sir, but in goods, how can you say this? Yes, that is what section 12 says. It is there in the law. Now, if supplier receives up to 1000, this I will come back to. So, what I'm trying to say here is the time of supply for goods is date of issue of the invoice or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. And what is date of receipt of payment? That is also being defined. They're saying that when the payment is in the books of account, when the recipient has accounted that he has received the payment in the book of account or payment is credited to the bank, that is the time of receipt of payment. When I record in my books that, okay, I've received it, or actually I should have received in my bank, whichever is earlier, that is a receipt of payment or issue of invoice. But in case of supply of goods, do we pay taxes on advance? Say, I am a supplier of electronic goods and my customer has given me the advance of 50,000 rupees and invoice I will raise after 10 days because if he gives me advance only, I will go and place a order and get the goods. So he's given me advance on the first and on the 10th, I will deliver the goods and that is the date when I will raise the invoice. So in that case, what is the time of supply? Section 12 of the IGST Act. Okay. So all these transactions are the scenarios of time of supply is not on the IGST Act. Sorry, this is normal CGST Act itself. In the CGST Act itself, Section 12 is deciding on the time of supply. So Shruti Kumar is saying date of receipt. Correct? इसके हिसाब से तो date of receipt है. This is what is there in the law. Now, after the law was enacted, there was difficulties. The trade made a submission saying that, boss, when I am providing any goods and I'm getting advance, okay, if you want me to pay advance on my GST on my advance, it's very difficult because the customer is giving me the advance to procure something. And if I pay GST from that, then my balance will be less. I cannot make the procurement. And other cases, the receiver also cannot claim the credit because under input tax credit, we'll see that to claim the input tax credit, the receiver just by paying it is not sufficient. He should have actually received the goods also. So he is also not getting the credit. So why are you collecting GST from me in advance? So they said, okay, we understand your problem. So then they came up with the relaxation. They said that through this notification number 66 of 2017, boys, taxpayers who are under forward charge, they're specific with the words, okay? They didn't say reverse charge, and we are also reading only forward charge. Taxpayers who are paying under tax under forward charge are not required to pay GST at the time of receipt of advance in relation to supply of goods. So when anybody is supplying some goods, they are getting any advance. On the advance, they don't have to pay GST. This is only for goods. Services, even on advance, you have to pay GST, but only for goods. If you're supplying any goods, okay, then the time of supply will be determined as date of issue of invoice only. Because of this notification, taxpayers under forward charge notification number 66, which says that taxpayers under forward charge are not required to pay GST at the time of receipt of advance. So this is the relaxation which is being given. So effectively, this portion will not be relevant for supply of goods. So for supply of goods, the time of supply is when you issue the invoice. Yes, Sai Kumar, on services, advance payment is adjusted for GST payment, but ITC can be claimed only after receiving services. You are right. If material is delivered and invoice is not generated, so there is a time limit, right? We had read that when you should raise the invoice, you should raise the invoice before movement of the goods. Before you remove the goods, you have to raise the invoice. Suppose you are delivering and you are not raising the invoice, then whenever you raise the invoice, you have to pay GST on that, but along with interest, because the time of supply is when you delivered the goods. So once you have delivered the goods, that is the time of supply. Agar aapne, if you have raised the invoice late, then when you are filing the return based on this invoice, you have to pay the GST amount along with interest. Are you clarified, Nayan Patil? So in case of reverse charge, date of receipt is the time of supply. We'll come to that, Bhavna. We are only going through step by step. We are under forward charge. Next, we'll go under reverse charge. What about specified actionable claims and composite suppliers? Even in that case, in case of specified actionable claim and composition taxpayers, the same policy, the same rules will apply. So we have to only see the invoice date exactly. Only we have to see the invoice date in case of supply of goods. Which notification, Hardik?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Sir, when a person as a unregistered person has crossed a threshold limit, he will be given some time for getting registration. So after getting registration for during the gap period, whatever invoices he has issued, he can do the revised invoices. Here it is okay. But my doubt is when he is filing GSTR1, whether he has to give old date or that amendment date, revised invoice date. Because if in GSTR1, if we give old dates, it will take interest, no, sir.
So that is related to accounts topic. But okay, since you're asking, he will have to issue a revised invoice. So because when I supplied the goods, I did not have registration number. So I've issued a invoice without my GST number.
Yes, sir.
But when my registration is coming in, then I will have
Yes,
to
sir.
revise those invoice with those same dates. You cannot
Okay.
alter the dates. You have to mention the same date.
Okay. Then what about GSTR1, sir?
So so the reason why they are allowing you to revise it is that the registration certificate is coming late, but the effective date of registration is from the effective date when you are supposed to register. So if they're giving you a registration certificate today, the effective date will be 20 days back, example.
Yes, sir.
So for that period, you have to file your GST returns. So you will continue filing it.
Whether penal interest will come for that first month or it will be exempted. That is I am asking,
No.
sir.
First month you will file, sir. First month return, you will file it
Without
on
any
time.
penal interest on invoice dates.
Invoice dates only you will consider. And if the registration is delayed, okay, because the time for that invoice, what is raised in the previous month, the time for that is 20th of the subsequent month. There
Yes,
is no exception to that. So if there is a delay, then you have to pay interest as well.
so first month for that registered threshold limit crossing persons, everybody has to pay interest in the first month. It may happen generally, no, sir.
No, it will not happen generally, sir, because your registration will not get delayed so much. Only in exceptional cases, if your registration is getting delayed, then interest may come, but generally it doesn't delay so much.
Oh, okay. But there is no exception for that. Nah?
No exception. Yes.
If it is come, he has to pay penal interest for that period.
Correct.
Okay, okay.
So notification number 66, I'll just go through, check this. Yeah, notification number 66 says that a registered person excluding composition supplier shall pay GST on the outward supply of goods at the time of supply as specified in 12(2)(a), that is the date of issue of invoice or the last day on which invoice is sought to have been issued. Correct. So in case of a composition supplier, they have not given this benefit, which means that if a composition supplier gets the money in advance, then even on that advance, he has to pay the taxes. Statutory updates. Adarsh Rao is just confirming that. Others, time of supply is only with respect to a specific project, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Hardik.
Sir, like I have three scenarios, sir. Sir, first one is like I am a composition dealer and I receive an advance from my customer in relation to any of the goods I supply. So, sir, I have to see both the case scenarios. Am I correct, sir?
No, you don't have to see both the scenarios. You have to see the invoices or
Earlier or
receipt, whichever is earlier.
earlier. Yes, sir, I have to see the earliest of these two.
Correct. Correct.
And sir, if I am a normal dealer, I get an advance, then I have to see only invoice.
Correct. That is your
And sir,
time of supply. Yes.
if there is no advance, in case if there is no advance, then also I have to see both the scenarios.
No, if there is no advance, then you will see only the invoice and payment will always be afterwards.
Okay, sir. Only the invoice date will be always earlier.
Correct.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Composition supplier pays tax on turnover basis. Yes. So whatever is his turnover, that will be decided. Why they have mentioned composition? Because tomorrow, if they decide that on goods on advances has to be paid, then composition dealer should not be treated in par with regular taxpayers. That's why they have excluded the composition dealer there. Okay. Now the time of supply of goods, that so in our case will be date of issue of invoice. Now when you should raise the invoice, so we know that date of issue of invoice or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Now when is the, we know that okay, receipt of payment is gone. Now issue of invoice, when we say, when is the issue of invoice relevant? Where it says that when the supply involves movement of goods, and there could be a scenario where supply does not involve movement of goods. Now, when the supply involves movement of goods, then the invoice has to be raised before the removal of the goods. And in case of supply other than movement, then the invoice has to be raised before delivery of the goods or making the goods available. Okay. When we say in case I have supplied, I have delivered the goods, like somebody was asking a question, sir, I have delivered it, but I missed to raise the invoice. So will the time of supply be when I raise the invoice? No, because you have to raise the invoice. Remember the chart where I said 4 pointers are there? The government has fixed one of the pointers. Here is that pointer wherein it says that where the supply involves movement of goods, then when you remove your goods, that time you have to raise the invoice. That time is the time of supply. Now, if you delay this invoice raising, then for that period from the time when you are supposed to raise the invoice till you have actually raised the invoice, for that period also you have to pay the interest. That is the relevance. Otherwise, they would have just told time of supply without usage. Can't be that. The time of supply has a relevance that if you delay the transaction of your time of supply beyond the time what is specified in the law, when they have said that you have to raise an invoice with before removal of the goods, you have to raise it. If you don't raise it for the delay, pay the interest. Now, most of the goods will be movable goods, that it is the supplies involving movement. Now, when it comes to a transaction which is, I have sold some goods on hire purchase, the customer is paying hire purchase rent. After the completion of the hire purchase agreement, he says, I like the product so much that I want to buy it, please sell it to me. I also thought, okay, let me sell it to him. So when I agreed to sell the goods which is already there with him, there is no movement required in that supply because the goods have already been moved and it is there with the customer. So in that scenario, the time of supply to raise the invoice will be when you are making those goods available to him. When you are deciding that, okay, I will sell it to him, that point of time, you have to raise the invoice. So that is the scenario of supply other than movement. Exceptions, receipt of an amount of rupees 1,000 in excess and supply deemed to have been made to the extent of invoice. This will not be applicable for goods. It will be applicable for services. We'll understand these terms there. So we understood that yes, when you should raise the invoice, before that date, if you raise the invoice on a timely basis, that is the time of supply. If you don't raise the invoice at that time of supply, then you will have to pay interest from for that same invoice for the delayed period. Another example of supply other than movement is when I buy a building for rent and the previous tenant has left his assets there. And now then the previous tenant is offering that to me, saying that anyways, you're going to buy this building. My old furnitures, do you want to use it? I say yes. So I will charge you 1 lakh rupees for the furnitures. I say okay. Now there also the goods are already installed and there is no requirement of movement of the goods. That is the second scenario when he physically hands over the keys to me. Before that, he has to raise the invoice. Sir, means for time of supply of goods, only date of issue of invoice we have to follow. And sir, what about receipt of payment? Gurminder Kaur, about receipt of payment for supply of goods, we should not see. Okay. Now, normal supply. Now, there can be a scenario of continuous supply, which means what? That is what is defined in this definition. What is a continuous supply of goods? Continuous supply of goods means any supply of goods which is provided or agreed to be provided continuously or on a recurrent basis under a contract, whether or not by means of a wire, cable, pipeline, or conduit. Okay, supply can happen through any of these modes. By supply continuously or on recurrent basis under a contract, whether or not by means of a wire, cable, pipeline, or conduit, and for which the supplier invoices to the recipient on a regular or periodical basis and includes supply of such goods as the government may subject to conditions specified. So basically, what is continuous supply of service? When I am supplying some goods on a continuous basis, okay, and where the continuously or on recurrent basis I'm supplying through how? It can be through contract, without contract, but what are the modes I can supply continuously through a wire or a cable or a pipeline or a conduit? Means conduit could be anything, any material through which, any mode through which I'm supplying on a continuous basis. When they say wire, I can supply internet through wire. I can supply telephone service through wire. I can supply all of that. I can supply through a wire. Then through a cable, I can supply internet. I can supply electricity through a pipeline. A typical example for goods, since we are talking on continuous supply of goods, when it is possible that cement is liable to GST, cement batching plant is there, and the project is running besides the batching plant, and the customer says that I cannot send my lorry all the time. So let us connect your supply through a pipeline so that whenever I want it, I'll open it like a tap, and continuously the cement will get supplied to me, and we'll fix up a meter on it so that how much consumption I've made, you will also get to know. So that is a continuous supply of goods wherein the supplier invoices on the recipient on a regular or periodic basis. That's saying that, okay, weekly I will raise an invoice, or once in 15 days you have to make a payment, wherein the terms have been decided between the supplier and the recipient, wherein on a regular or periodic basis invoices are being raised and include supply of such goods which the government will decide. So government has not decided anything. So anything which continuously I supply is called as continuous supply of goods. Water supply, oil supply, yes, all of this is a example of continuous supply. Gas pipeline, very good. Data transfer through cable, correct. Newspaper, Abhishek, will not be a continuous supply because once today's newspaper is delivered to you, that supply is completed. Tomorrow, what newspaper will be delivered? That's a different supply. So any supply, what we see is happening on a daily basis. That is not a continuous supply. They are different supplies, but you make the payment on a monthly basis. But continuous supply is one, there is a conduit through which goods have been supplied on a continuous basis. Now, what is the similar to this? There is continuous supply of services. So since it is a related topic, I've mentioned the definition here. What is a continuous supply of goods? We understood. Now, what is a continuous supply of services? Continuous supply of services means a supply of services which is provided or agreed to be provided continuously or on recurrent basis under a contract for a period exceeding 3 months with periodic payment obligations and includes supply of such services as the government may subject to conditions specified. So in case of continuous supply of services, what we are saying is there is a difference. Firstly, it says that continuous supply of services means a supply of services which is provided or agreed to be provided continuously or again on recurrent basis under a contract for a period exceeding 3 months. So there has to be a supply for a period of minimum 3 months. No such condition is there for goods. Okay. With periodic payment obligations and includes supply of services as the government may subject to such conditions specified. Same again on the government condition, but that condition, as we said, it is not there. So this condition is not there. But services similar to supply of goods, that supply is happening on a continuous basis. But for services, there is a minimum period of 3 months. For goods, even for 1 or 2 months, it is sufficient. There is no such term like should be for a minimum duration, because goods will be flowing continuously. But services, what could be an example of continuous supply of services? Say, I have recruited somebody to work as a marketing agent for me, and he is providing continuous supply of services. He's doing marketing on for a period of 6 months. So this is a continuous supply of service, because the service is being provided and it is being provided as one service. Not that one service is getting completed in 1 month and the second is going. The supply of service of marketing is happening for a period of 6 months. Then it is a continuous supply of service, wherein I also agree that I'll make a periodic payment to you. Set milestones you will set and things like that. So on that milestone basis, I'll make payments to you. Now this service, it is for a period of more than 3 months. So it is a continuous supply of services. Correct, sir. Household cooking gas supply through pipelines is a good example of supply of goods. Subscription and membership, mobile recharge will come under continuous services? Not necessarily, because a subscription will come, but mobile recharge will not come, because once mobile recharge is done, then that service is getting completed there itself. Okay. SIM card recharge with a plan of telephone company like Airtel and Jio. Those are all, yes, is a continuous supply, because the supply of this is happening on a continuous basis. Contract of services, where a person renders professional services for a period of more than 3 months. Yes, yes, Kasak, that's a good example of continuous supply of services. OTT subscription, not necessarily, because once you subscribe, okay, you will pay subscription for the whole year, and that is completed. After that, I don't see that it is okay. You can call it as a continuous supply, because you are taking a subscription for 1 year. But in that case, the payment is agreed at the initial period itself. Now, when they want to say continuous supply of services, they would mean that when you're supplying it on a continuous basis and payment is decided in multiple installments. That is a good example for continuous supply of services. Course provide for exam preparation, yes, that can be there. AMC services, not necessarily. AMC service, you make the payment upfront, correct? So then AMC is not a continuous supply of service, because once you make the payment, the obligation is there on the other person to provide any maintenance throughout the year. But it is one-time payment which you are making. Supply will happen for a period of 12 months. Labor service, correct. Shruti Kumari, labor service for 4 months, but he's getting paid day payment. If he's getting day payment, so it means that us din ka kaam us din khatam. Okay, so that is not a continuous supply of service, because day payment ho gaya to agle din nahi aaya, so there's no obligation. But in case of a continuous supply of services, he has an obligation to be there for minimum period of 3 months. Water purifier recharge, yes, that's a good example of continuous supply of service. Yeah, if you make day payment continuously by 3 months, still it will be a daily work itself. It will not be continuous supply, because it is like having a contract, daily contract. But since you cannot sign contract on a daily basis, you are clubbing the multiple contracts for a bundled period. But the contract primarily is on a daily basis itself. Even if you make the daily payment for 3 months, it will not be converted as a continuous supply. salaried employees under a contract is also not a example of continuous supply, because in case of salaried employee, they are actually out of the scope of supply itself, because Schedule 3 Schedule 3 excludes employer-employee relationship as outside the scope of supply. So salaried employees, we will not keep it here. But if the same salaried employee is a professional and he's providing you a contract for a period of 4 months, then it will be treated as a continuous supply of service. Correct. So the obligation should be for a period of more than 3 months. That's the definition, right? It says that for a period exceeding 3 months. Okay, so that is the definition of continuous supply of goods and continuous supply of services. Why this is relevant? Because what is the time of supply for continuous supply of goods and what is the time of continuous supply of services is what we're trying to understand. In case of continuous supply of goods where successive statement of accounts or successive payments are involved, the invoice shall be issued before or at the time such statement is issued or each payment is made. So in case of continuous supply of goods, where you will enter into a contract saying that we will issue a periodic statement of account or you will have to make periodic payments. So when one of these two has been agreed, which should be agreed in case of goods, the invoice shall be issued before or at the time each such statement is issued. Now you have a vending machine. You are supplying continuously through that vending machine. Okay. Now you will raise an invoice for whatever usage has happened from that vending machine on a periodic basis. Weekly statement you will bring in, wherein you will load the cans in the vending machine and how much of the cans has been disposed of. You will make a statement and give it to the company, right? Like a lot of companies have this vending machine saying that, okay, whatever juice bottles you want, you can take up. So how the count will happen from the machine itself, how much, it is not like a normal fridge. It is a machine wherein every movement inward and outward is getting recorded. So whatever outward happens gets loaded in the system and the machine vendor will come, load the machine and take a statement saying, okay, this week 50 cans have been used. So when that statement is taken up, the invoice has to be issued once that statement is being provided to the customer. So the time of supply for issue of continuous supply of goods will be when such successive statement is issued, or they say, okay, we will not make a statement. You have to pay us on every quarterly basis. So before that payment is being paid, the invoice has to be issued. So that in time of supply will be the invoice shall be issued before or at the time each such statement is issued, or as the case may be, each such payment is received. Okay. So this is on continuous supply of goods. Next, on sale on approval or return basis. So a typical example we can give is when you buy something wherein it is a luxury product, okay, and you want to check it at home saying that, okay, I have bought this product. Now I want to check whether it is suitable for my home, matching or no. I will take it and I'm not buying it right now. I'm taking it on approval basis. Once I check if it is confirmed, it is matching. Or a typical another example is when you're building up a house, you will buy some furniture. You will see that, okay, if it is fitting to the description, then I will buy it. Otherwise, I will return it to you. Might not be in all cases, but in some cases, when you have good relationship with your seller, you can have this benefit, which is called as sale on approval basis. So I will buy it if I like it and if it fits in. Otherwise, I'm only taking it and I will return it. So then the supplier is thinking, should he raise an invoice or no? Because sale has not happened. If he raises a sale invoice and supplies it, and later on you reject it, my GST is gone. Then I have to raise a credit note for the return and things like that. That's a headache. So the government is saying in such scenarios, don't worry, the sale or approval basis, we know that these transactions exist. So what you do is you dispatch the good on the basis of a delivery challan. What is a delivery challan? It's a document saying that the goods are being moved. So with the delivery challan, you will move the goods. Once the customer gets it, he will keep it. Now he will check it and give it. You call him on the first month. Have you approved it? No, I am busy with something. Second month, you call him. Have you approved it? No. Fourth month, you will ask him, have you approved it? No. Sixth month, you will call it, have you approved it? No. The government said enough. Within 6 months, if he is not approving, you raise your invoice. So the time of supply for sale or return basis is before or at the time of supply or 6 months from the date of removal, whichever is earlier. So if he delays beyond 6 months, at the end of 6 months, raise the invoice. Or if he's approving at the phone month itself, say he's good enough and he's given you a call saying that, okay, I've bought this product. At the end of fourth month, you raise the invoice because he's approved it. So maximum duration, what you can give him the period to hold on is up to 6 months. Clear? Now, time of supply under reverse charge. We'll take a break here. We'll take a break and we will discuss on time of supply under reverse charge. After 6 months, we have to raise the invoice. Yes, at the end of 6th month, you have to raise the invoice. 4 o'clock, 10 minute break, Nitin, as usual. So we'll meet catch up at 4 o'clock. Sure. So there were some questions which were posted during the break. One is with respect to time of supply, which is that notification number 66, which says that composition supplier is excluded and registered persons making specified actionable claims. They are also out. So what is specified actionable claims? When we understand, then we'll get to know that the time of supply for specified actionable claims is betting, lottery, gambling, and then online gamings. So the reason why they've got specified actionable claims excluded is online gamings and all. In online gaming is treated as an actionable claim, and but it is taxable. So for such actionable claims of online gamings, they didn't want to give this exclusion of non-payment of GST on advance. That's why they have excluded from here. Okay. So when we say specified actionable claims, betting, gambling, online gaming, lottery tickets, on all of these, the time of supply will be even. You have to see both, whether amount received in advance or raising of invoice, whichever is earlier. Yes, Hardik.
Sir, in case of a time of supply on sale or return or approval basis, sir, 6 months is the maximum duration. But sir, if the receiver gives us the approval before 6 months, then the time of supply will be on that fourth month day or when the goods were removed.
No, on the fourth month day itself.
Sir, but there it is written that uh, the invoice should be issued before or at the time of supply or 6 months. So, sir,
Correct,
this time of supply is in relation to the 6 months period only, not that time of supply which we have studied in section 31.
correct, correct. When
Okay,
it
sir.
is approved. Yes.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Normal supplier, composition supplier, specified actionable claim supplier. In above three, what are the criteria of for each of them? Okay. So in case of a normal supplier, others it is invoice date. In case of a composition supplier, it is excluded because even in case composition supplier, you see that it will always be on what supply he's making. And in case of specified actionable claim, the time of supply will be invoice date or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay. Composition, others don't get confused. See, composition supplier, you pays a composition on the turnover what he's achieved. Correct. So there we will not see the receipt at all. We will only see the invoices what he's raising because the turnover has to be calculated because he's supplying goods. Whatever sales he's making, whatever supply is making, only that we will consider. So invoice date, yes, only that you have to consider. At the time of supply means when he approves it in case of 31/7, correct? Excuse me. Tambeshwari, what is your doubt? So we'll go to 4 point. Yes, we will do some FAQs, Tambeshwar, at the end. Then you will get to know that. Time of supply of goods under reverse charge. Now, time of supply is earliest of the following dates. Date of receipt of the goods, because in reverse charge, recipient has to pay it. So the time of supply is on receipt of the goods or date immediately 30 days from the date of issue of invoice by the supplier, because supplier will give some document, right? So you have to pay the reverse charge when one of the earliest of the following: the actual receipt of the goods, the date immediately following 30 days from the issue of invoice by the supplier, or the date of payment, whichever is earlier. So in this case, there is no that exclusion that payment is not to be considered. That is under forward charge. Under reverse charge, we will have to consider, even if you have paid advance to a vendor, then you have to pay reverse charge at that point of time itself, because the earliest of the three is triggered. So when they say time of supply is the earliest of the three, it's the earliest of the three: date of receipt of the goods, or say he is given an invoice but dispatched it late. So if the 30 days from the date of invoice is earliest, then we may have to abide by that itself. So it is receipt of goods or 30 days from the date of receipt of the invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier. If it is not possible to determine the options A, B, and C, say you don't have any track of any of these things, then time of supply is the date of entry in your books of accounts. That you cannot deny, right? Because you have entered in your books of account. So if you're not able to decide when did you receive the goods because he was unregistered, you don't know, or you don't know if he's raised the invoice or he's not raised the invoice, and you have not made the payment also, then date of entry in the books of accounts will be the time of supply. That is only in case of reverse charge basis. And under reverse charge, the date of invoice is not the time of supply, right? So just invoice is not the time of supply. There are three criteria which you have to see when you have received the goods: 30 days from the date of issue of invoice or the date of payment, whichever is earlier. Clear? Reverse charge on goods. Simple, right? Only three criteria: date of receipt of the goods, 30 days from the date of invoice, or the date of payment, whichever is earlier. Now, vouchers. What is the time of supply for vouchers which are exchangeable for goods? Vouchers, we have to understand firstly what is a voucher. Voucher means an instrument where there is an obligation to accept it as a consideration. So you get discount vouchers saying that, okay, 500 rupees voucher on any purchase from this shop, you will get 500 rupees off. So when you buy something, he has to give a discount of 500 when you give that discount. So that is the meaning of voucher. Any other voucher when you get saying that, okay, you will get a cashback and things, okay, where it is not exchangeable as a consideration. Only those documents or those coupons which you can accept it as a consideration for supply of goods or services is a voucher for the purpose of GST. Because otherwise you get a lot of other vouchers that is not relevant. Only such voucher which helps to bring the transaction value. Now, if you get a voucher saying that buy, get a free coffee, that is also a voucher because the shopkeeper will sell you a coffee and whatever is the 100 rupees price for that, it will get adjusted with the voucher. So that is a voucher because it is an instrument where the obligation to pay for that coffee is getting nullified. So voucher means an instrument where there is an obligation to accept it as a consideration or part consideration, not necessarily full value, even for a part value also, where it is an obligation to accept it as a consideration or part consideration for a supply of goods or services or both. Now, supply of vouchers by supplier. The time of supply is, if the supply is identifiable, then the date of issue of voucher. If the supply is not identifiable, then date of redemption of voucher. Let's understand this. I am giving you a voucher of 500 rupees to buy a shirt. So you go to Alan Solly, you can only buy a shirt. So the supply is identifiable, saying that against this voucher, you can only get a shirt. So when I give you the voucher, who will give? Alan Solly only will give. Alan Solly gives you this voucher. That is the time of supply for that 500 rupees. Because you can exchange it only for buying the shirt. Now, if you get a voucher of 300 rupees from Big Bazaar, there you will get a voucher for 300, but can you not buy anything from the Big Bazaar because it is not specific? It's a general voucher. You can go buy a product which is chargeable of fruits. You can buy a product which is rice or something which is at 5%. You can buy a clothes which is at 18%. You can buy slippers which is at 12%. So the supply is not identifiable. So the time of supply will not be at the time of issue of this voucher, but at the time of redemption of the voucher, the time of supply will be considered. Because when you redeem it, then I'll get to know the rate. That time I will charge you the exact GST. So the time of supply of a voucher which is identifiable is at the time of issue of the voucher, because whatever you do, either you sell it, you pay it, you lose it. But my sale, I've got the consideration and I will pay the tax on it because it is a identifiable voucher. If it is an unidentifiable voucher, then the date of redemption of the voucher is the time of supply. And last scenario, if it is not possible to determine the time of supply under any of those previous conditions of 2, 3, 4, okay, then the time of supply will be when the periodical return has to be filed by the supplier, then the date of return filing. And if it is an unregistered person, when the date of the tax is paid, that is the time of supply. Amazon vouchers are electronic. Amazon vouchers also, when we see, you can redeem it for any product on Amazon, correct? So it is a other case voucher, it is when the date of redemption will be the time of supply. Yes, the time when advance is given, that time will be the time of supply for advance payment, and for the rest of the payment on invoice value itself. Correct. So in RCM, the time, yes, you're right. If the voucher is specified, then the date of issue of voucher. If not, then redemption of the voucher. Correct. रिडेम्पशन वाउचर का मतलब, रिडेम्पशन मतलब जब आपको मैं एक वाउचर देता हूं 500 रुपए का, ठीक है, कि ये लीजिए मैंने आपको वाउचर दिया है, आप इसको आपके ड्रेस खरीदने के लिए रिडीम कर सकते हो। तो आप इस वाउचर से क्या करोगे, आप लेके दुकान के पास जाके एक्सचेंज करोगे। तो 1000 रुपए का ड्रेस है, आप 500 रुपए का वाउचर दोगे और 500 रुपए का पैसा दोगे। तो ये जो 1500 का डिस्काउंट मिला आपको इस वाउचर देने पे, इसे कहते हैं रिडेम्पशन। रिडेम्पशन का मतलब उसको यूज करना, उसे कहते हैं रिडेम्पशन। Okay, so this is the time of supply for goods: normal, continuous supply, reverse charge, vouchers. So time of supply for vouchers is if the supply is identifiable, date of issue of voucher. If the supply is not identifiable, then the date of redemption of the voucher. Like food passes, you can buy any food. Okay, examples for food passes, you can buy any food item can be purchased. So supply is not identifiable at the time of issue of vouchers because you can buy fruits which is exempted, you can buy packaged products or anything. So general food pass is given, then the time of supply is date of redemption. And if there is a shirt coupon, then the only shirt can be redeemed, then the time of supply is the date of issue of the voucher itself. Now, time of supply of goods in residual cases, it says that when it is not possible to determine the time of supply of goods in any of the above situation, if the periodical returns is filed, then the date on which return is filed, that will become the time of supply. And in any other case, the date on which the tax is paid. Same thing. Now, when you supply something, then there could be an instance of special charges which is levied. Okay. What is this instance of special charges? It could be due to delay in payment, for which you may collect any of these called as IPL. What is IPL? The smartest kid in the class will tell IPL stands for Indian Premier League. But we are not talking about Indian Premier League here. We are talking about a GST scenario. Bhumika, no, it is not cricket match. We are actually not talking about cricket match. We are talking about any kind of a interest, penalty, or late fees. Okay. So due to delay in IPL का ticket नहीं है ये. This is IPL to remember that अगर supply के time अगर कोई interest penalty या late fees charge करता है तो उस scenario में क्या होगा? If interest penalty or late charges है, it could be for goods or it could be services, the GST will always be on receipt basis. Why? So generally, when you will charge IPL saying that I have made a supply and the customer has to make the payment within 30 days. Now, if he's not making the payment, then I will charge interest for the delayed payment. So if he's making payment on the 45th day, I will tell you had to make payment on 30th day, but you have made payment on the 45th day. So for 15 days, you have to pay interest. Now for that, I will raise a debit note, correct? Because invoice has been already raised. Now for the delayed payment, I will raise a debit note. The time of supply, if I mention as debit note, then that will be incorrect because I am not sure if the customer will make the payment of this interest or no. Correct? Because already my invoice is delayed. Now, on for if I charge him interest, if he wants my relationship with him, then he will make the payment of the interest. Otherwise, he will not pay. So I will end up paying up GST on this debit note and it will be a loss for me. So government is saying that if there is delay in payment, then you pay GST on receipt basis, that you raise a debit note, and if your customer is paid to you, then you pay GST. So three scenarios. First scenario was we had seen that supply of goods, the date of the time of supply is on issue of invoice. In case of composition supply and in case of specified uh, transactions of this one, when we had spoken on a transaction of actionable claim, issue of invoice, or receipt of payment, whichever is earliest. And in case of special charges, it is not on invoice, it is only on receipt basis. अगर आपको immediately पैसे आ गए हैं, then that is the time of supply. Okay, in any other cases, if it is linked to the original supply, then GST is based on date of debit note. That is on the date of debit note, that is the time of supply. If not, it is a supply in itself. So you just exclude it, but just consider that if in case of any other charges, if it is linked to the original supply, then GST is based on date of debit note. So time of supply in case of enhancement of value, in case of any of these IPL, firstly, it is due to delay in payment. And if it is in addition in value, correct, then only you will charge one of these. You will charge interest or penalty or late fees, then GST is on receipt basis. Clear? This was the time of supply for goods. MCQ Ardik, I have prepared for full chapter. Uh, let us see if we can take that. If it is related to services, then we will take that up after completion of supply of service, time of supply for services. Let me take you through the MCQ Ardik. Yeah. Yes, sir. Oh my God. Many have given mixed answer. Come on, come on. What is the time of supply of this voucher? Why is this question so very confusing? We have just discussed now. Supply is unidentifiable. Why is supply unidentifiable, Abhishek? Getting all sides of answers. A, B, and C are floating around. Why A? Komal Jain. B also. Okay, that is only to say that, okay, since I said A, B, C, you have given B. But why is it A? Just understand this. It means we have not understood the concept of voucher correctly. So Positive Advisors Private Limited provided vouchers to its employees worth rupees 5,000 on 29th October on the occasion of its 8th anniversary, which is on 28th October 2021. The voucher value can be used either for purchase of goods or purchase of services. So what does this mean? It's a general voucher. It is not identifiable for supply of a particular product, right? It is not a identifiable product. It is a general voucher, so it could be for supply of goods or supply of services. Correct? Can you recollect our point on issue of voucher? If the supply is identifiable, then it is the date of issue of the voucher. If the supply is not identifiable, then date of redemption of voucher. Correct? So vouchers can be redeemed anytime. Few arts employees redeem the vouchers on 26th June. So what is the time of supply? Obviously, then 26th June itself, right? So question can be tricky, but answer is straightforward if you apply the logic and don't get confused. Okay, we've got time of supply for goods. What if staffs have not redeemed the voucher? Then it is gone. No GST on that because there is no supply recognized for a unredeemable vouchers. Okay, when it is an identified voucher, then it is the time of supply will be when you redeem it. In case of unredeemable voucher, there is no time which is specified. Baba Saheb Nagre, APD. What are you saying? It is a multiple choice question, so it has to have one answer. Res. The answer is D because date of receipt of goods or date immediately following 30 days from the date of invoice or the date of payment, whichever is earlier. Second answer D hai Gurmit, not B. क्योंकि सेकेंड में क्या हुआ है आई जस्ट मेंशन द ऑप्शन इज डेट ऑफ रिसिप्ट ऑफ गुड्स और डेट इमीडिएटली फॉलोइंग 30 डेज बट डेट ऑफ पेमेंट नहीं लिखा है बट इन केस ऑफ रिवर्स चार्ज देयर आर थ्री कंडीशंस date of receipt, date immediately following 30 days from the date of invoice, or the date of payment, whichever is earlier. Komal is saying, but already we have recorded as a supply. We have not recorded as a supply, we have recorded as an expense, Komal. So what we have recorded as an expense is different, and what we have recorded it as a supply is different. This one is supply of services. So this you can answer, but I will not give answer for this because we have not discussed on supply of services. Yes, Komal, you had some question.
Sir, we have already recorded it as a supply at the time of supplying the voucher. So, as you were saying, we have not recorded it as supply, means in what we have recorded it.
Correct. So when we record it as an expense, no, that doesn't mean it's a supply. So unless in case of vouchers, we will always record it as a expense itself, right? So the GST liability will come if it is identifiable. Otherwise, it's an expense for us. So there will not be any GST for a voucher which is not redeemed.
Okay, sir. If it is redeemed, then it will become a supply.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay. On second question also is related to time of supply for services. We'll skip this. And the last question also is on supply of services. So we'll go back to understanding what is the time of supply for services. Very simple. Since we have understood goods, we can understand the time of supply for services. The time of supply for services is issue of invoice or receipt of payment as usual. But there is a slight change. There is one slide above that, one level above that, which says that if the invoice is issued within 30 days or 45 days. So normally it is 30 days and 45 days is for insurance companies, banking companies, or any financial institutions. Insurance, banking, and financial institutions. These entities get extra 15 days time to raise an invoice. But in normal scenario, other than three, any other person providing service, he has to raise an invoice within 30 days of completion of service. So service is completed today. The government doesn't expect you to raise invoice today itself like goods. In case of goods, it is removal of goods. Before removal of goods, you have to raise an invoice. But for services, before completing the service, you have to raise, not possible. So you complete the service and 30 days from the date of completion of service, you have to raise an invoice. If you raise the invoice within 30 days, then the time of supply is normal, issue of invoice or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Here you don't get the exemption of receipt of payment gone away. No, here it is applicable. For exemption under notification number 66 was only for goods. For services, if you raise the invoice on time means within 30 days, then time of supply is issue of invoice or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. And if you raise the invoice later on, okay, then there's a consequence. If you raise the invoice later on, then it is receipt of payment or provision of service. Very, very important. I completed the service, completed service on 1st of November 2000. Let's take 1st of December or 15th of December. 15th December 2023. Okay. Invoice issued. When do you want? On the 5th of January 2024. Okay. This is scenario one. What is the time of supply? Bhaskar Das and Mahalakshmi and Hardik Marva. You are of a view that it is on 15th December. Why so? Everyone else is saying 5th January. Why are you saying it is on 15th December? No answers. So it means it's a guesswork. Date of issue of invoice or receipt of payment. Okay, if I've not given receipt of payment, it means the payment is not received, correct? So you don't have to tell that, okay, it is not determinable, right? Because we have other facts in our hand. Since issue of invoice is within time, so the time of supply, Baba, it is the issue of invoice itself, because I have raised the invoice on time, correct? So the time of supply is 5th of January 2024, because I've issued the invoice on time. Now let's take scenario number 2. Service completed on 18th December 2023. Invoice issued on 8th February 2024. What is the time of supply in this case? Oh my God. Vinuta, Nayan Patil. Okay, Nayan Patil has given a very unique answer. Let's discuss your answer at the end. But few of them have said that it is on 8th February. How can it be on 8th February, boys and girls? Invoice has to be raised within 30 days from the date of completion of service. 18th December has to be raised by 17th of January. I have not raised the invoice on 17th of January. I've issued it late. So the time of supply we have seen here, right? Receipt of payment or provision of service. Service completed means I've provided the service. So the time of supply will be 18th of December 2023. Okay. Now, what differently Nayan Patil is told is no, time of supply is neither this, neither that. He has told that 18th December 2023 plus 30 days, which is 17th February 2024. He is telling this is the time of supply. Not correct, right? So that is the time limit up till which invoice was supposed to be raised. If it is not raised, then the time of supply goes back to the provision of service. So see what will happen in this case. Once the party has raised an invoice on 8th February 2024, they will file their returns in March GST returns. What they will do, they will show that invoice is dated February. So they will pay interest. They will pay tax plus interest for what period? December's due date was January, February, March. They will pay interest for 3 months. Why? From January to March. Now, how did this January come? The service is completed in December. When we say time of supply is December, payment of tax due date is January. So that January, And February, they have raised the invoice, which they will pay in March. So January to March also, they have to pay interest when they file the GST returns based on this invoice of February. Clear here? Yes, Komal.
Sir, if the invoice is raised on 8th February 2024, how will the government come to know that the supply has already been over in 18th December? So they can
Government
even
will not get to know. Government doesn't know anything. Government only relies on you, and they say you file your own returns. So when we file our returns, we will have to see the provisions of the law and then file the returns. If we do not file the returns correctly, then the government does something called as a assessment. During assessment, if they observe this, they will levy interest with penalty.
Sir, but at the time of filing as an auditor, how we will come to know that we will only see the bill and we will do the filing. So in the bill, if it is in February or the February month, then we will take it as a March. Then there will be no interest. So
Correct.
according.
Correct. So there is no mechanism as such to trace back from the invoice what is the provision of service. It is the diligence of the taxpayer itself that he will have to provide, saying that when is the service completed and when is the invoice raised. You're right. Practically, there is no mechanism, but the law says that once the officer identifies that this is the date of completion, then penal interest will come. That's why they are giving it as a self-assessment, saying that you do your assessment yourself. Once you do your assessment, we believe in you. If there is any mistake, we will identify.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, when exam time is given, both the receipt of payment date and the provision of service date, the what is written time of supply?
Sorry, tell that again.
Yes, sir. Receipt of payment and the provision of service, both are date given when what I do, sir.
Then I will give you one example. Let us take this example. Service provided. Okay. Service is provided on 5th of January 2024. Okay. Invoice raised. Okay. Invoice is raised on 6th of February 2024. And provision of service, okay, is service provision I've given, date of invoice. And I will give you receipt of payment also. The receipt of payment is in दोनों के बीच में 15 January 2024. Now you tell me what is the time of supply.
Sir, I have no idea, sir.
No, very simple. You cannot tell that. The full chart is there in front of you. Oh shit, this is gone. So this is the chart in front of you. Issue of invoice, receipt of payment. First, you have to decide this. Which one will you apply? Left wala or right wala?
When invoice within 30 days.
So
within 30 days.
Have you raised the invoice within 30 days?
Yes, sir.
No, you can't tell yes or no, just blindly. What was the date of provision of service?
5th January 2024.
So when does 30 days gets completed?
30 days completed for the February.
4th February, correct?
Yes, sir.
So invoice should be raised by 4th February. Then you will apply invoice issued within 30 days. But in my question, invoice is issued on 6th of February.
Yes, sir. It is
So how can
after.
you tell invoice is issued within 30 days? Invoice is issued after 30 days.
Yes, sir.
Correct? So after
Yes.
30 days, then the time of supply will be receipt of payment or provision of service, whichever is earlier. What is the receipt date of payment?
15 January 2024. It is earlier, so it is the date
Wait,
of
wait.
time of supply.
Why are you hurrying so much?
Sir,
It is receipt of payment or provision of service, whichever is earlier. Receipt of payment is 15 January. And when
yes,
is
sir.
the provision of service?
Provision of service. It is 5th January.
5th of January. Correct? So which is
Yes,
earlier then?
5th January.
So why are you giving wrong answers? Okay?
Sorry, sir.
When you're learning, learn slowly so that when you write, you can write fastly. If you learn fastly, then you will write slowly. Okay?
Okay, sir.
So
Okay,
you
sir.
have to analyze this step by step. 5th January or 15th January, whichever is earlier. So 5th January is the earliest one. The time of supply is 5th of January.
Okay, sir.
Like that, you have to analyze step by step.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, same in this case of within a 30 days, मतलब कि sir issue of invoices and receipt of payment is given both of dates, whichever is earlier.
For that, I have 4th question for you. Service provided on 17th of August 2024. Okay. Invoice
Yes, sir.
raised. For the now, you cannot make any questions. You cannot make any mistakes. Answer this question properly. Okay. Let me finish my question. Invoice is raised on 30th of August 2024. Okay.
Okay.
And receipt of payment is 15th of August. No. 20th of August 2024. Now tell me what is the time of supply. Step by step. Okay.
Okay, sir. Within the 30 days, it is provided because it is not um, 16, 16 9 2024 is 30 day after, but it is a 38 2024. It is a within a 30 days invoice is issued. And second step, which is a year earlier. So sir, service provide is earlier, but it is a 13 days. It is not in a provision of service because it is after within after 30 days. So it is a receipt of payment date 28 2024, right, sir?
ये आप खाना ऐसे खाने से बदले ऐसे खा रहे हो. आंसर तो आपका गलत सही हो गया है, बट यू हैव टू नॉट कंपेयर सर्विस प्रोवाइडेड, क्योंकि इनवॉइस मैंने टाइम पे रेस किया है. सो देन यू हैव टू कंपेयर issue of invoice or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. So you have to compare 30th August or 20th August, whichever is earlier. So 20th August is before, so time of supply is 20th August.
Okay, sir. ओके सर. सर घर प्रैक्टिस करूंगी थोड़ा और इसके ऊपर, थोड़ा और
Please.
क्लियर हो जाएगा.
Thank you.
ओके, थैंक यू सर.
Yes, Komal.
सर इसमें आके इफ इनवॉइस इज इशूड विद इन 30 और 45 डेज करके लिखा है ना सर, तो मतलब 30 डेज का क्राइटेरिया अगर हम लोग सेटिस्फाई नहीं कर पाए तो 45 डेज तक तो हम लोगों के पास है ना.
नहीं, 45 days, as I had said, you note it down. 45 days is for specific service providers. Okay. Who are they
Specific
45 days? Yes. They are insurance companies, banking companies and financial institutions. So only for these three people, it is 45 days.
Okay, sir.
For everyone else, it is 30 days.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Whatever is invoice is raised on the 30th day, even if it is raised on the 30th day, it will be considered as the first criteria of the criteria that invoice is issued within 30 days. Okay. Now, when we say receipt of payment, when we say receipt of payment, then it is receipt of payment in your books of account or the payment credited in the bank, whichever is earlier. So you cannot say that, no, it was there in my bank account, I did not see and I have not accounted in my books. Not allowed. It is when you have recorded in your books or credited in the bank, whichever is earlier. Okay. And then there is an exception which we saw there also in the goods also. Here the same exception comes. Receipt of an amount up to rupees 1,000 in excess, which means that the time of supply of services is receipt of advance or issue of invoice, whichever is earlier. Now, if I issue the invoice late, but I receive payment, so on receipt of payment, I will pay GST. Now, I've received the invoice for 5,500 rupees, but I've received payment of 6,000 rupees. So 5,500, I have raised the invoice. 6,000, I've received later on. Time of supply is issue of the invoice. Now, for 5,500, time of supply is issue of invoice. For this 500 extra, what I'm getting, that time of supply, it says that exception. So up to rupees 1,000, whatever I am receiving, I can treat the time of supply with the next invoice. You don't have to pay GST on receipt basis for that extra value of 500 rupees. Okay, I'll ask you a question here. I have a Airtel connection or say any postpaid connection. I'm not endorsing any brand here. Postpaid bill I received for 4,250 rupees. I have received this on 1st of January 2024. I have paid, I didn't consider the small amounts. I have paid 5,000 rupees on 30th January 2024. I'd say 20th January 2024. Okay, so what is the time of supply for the bill? That is rupees 4,250. What is the time of supply? And what is the time of supply for the 750 rupees? Twentieth January. Nayan Patil, your answers are very unique. How is it 20th January? And say, let me give you complete scenario. The next postpaid bill is for 3,000. This is on the next month, 1st February 2024. Correct. At least 4,250. Everybody has tried to say it correctly. The time of supply is 1st January 2024. That is date of invoice. Now for the 750 rupees, what is the time of supply? First of February, correct. So you have an option to treat this 750 as time of supply as 20th January, but this exception over here says that receipt of an amount up to rupees 1,000, you have an option to treat the time of supply for this 750 that you will adjust with the next bill as the time of supply of the next invoice. So time of supply for rupees 750 can be on the 20th January or it can be on the 1st of February 2024, which you will adjust with the next bill. So next bill मैं क्या करूँगा 3,000 की जगह I will reduce 3,000 minus 750 and pay the balance 2,250. But in what for the supplier, the value will be complete 3,000. Manvi, what didn't you get? Since be better if you could ask your question, we could discuss. Up to 1,000, yes. That is, this adjustment applies only when it is up to 1,000 rupees. So any small digits, round off, whatever things we have, for that, this is the option. Okay. So we have completed time of supply of goods completely, time of supply of services. We have just started time of supply of services for reverse charge, for continuous supply. We'll see in the next class. And the other MCQs, and we will take some more questions like this so that our understanding can be clear. Okay. Thank you very much. Any more doubts? Thank you, Hardik. I also enjoy the questions which you guys ask. More questions, then I have more confidence. Thank you. Yes, sir.